gemstones?
Many years ago, after going through my teens, I was trying to do what I was supposed to do. Trying that for many years and just failing. I decided, you know what, I'm just going to do what I want to do. And I had started going to music festivals as a patron. And after my first one, I said, this is where I want to be. This is where I want to be all the time. This is amazing. There's people enjoying themselves. There's live music that's amazing.
Yeah.
And this is where I want to be. And so I did that for 2 years, just going to music festivals. And by the end of the second year, I'm really trying to figure out, like, how can I be here all the time and still make a living? At the time, I was very fortunate where I had a very flexible job. I had a job doing landscaping that allowed me to, like if I wanted to take Thursday and Friday off to go to, a festival, a few hours away in New York or something, I could do that. And, it'd be fine Monday, back, mowing lawns and pulling weeds and stuff.
Yeah.
And so after going to about 7 or 8 music festivals, I was really trying to figure out, like, how can I do this and still make a living? And I said, oh, well, at these festivals, there are these people, I see them at some of the same festivals, and they're all set up selling their stuff, and like, oh. And my actual thought was, maybe I could get a job working for one of them. Now the thing is, because that's where my mindset was. Even though my parents were, my father was a small business owner. He was a mechanic and he had his own shop. But they always drilled it into my head, you need to go to school and do really good and get a job, and basically you need to get a job making money for somebody else who doesn't give anything, doesn't give a care about you at all, and just be a cog in the machine. Which, years later I'm like, why did they teach me that instead of,
working for yourself?
Work for yourself.
Yeah.
Because it's hard.
Yeah.
because it's hard, and working for yourself, your paycheck is not guaranteed.
Right.
But the thing is, that's something that you can't focus on that. You just got to keep going and go. As long as I show up and do my best, things are going to work out. And thankfully, that's 15 years.
It worked out.
It definitely worked out. There were definitely days or weeks at a time where I was severely stressed out. Where I wasn't making enough money. But obviously I was, because I was still able to travel and feed myself and clothe myself, and so but yeah, like anything, there's always low points. There's always always bad days to be had.
Exactly.
But
do you miss life on the road?
Every now and then, yeah. And that's the thing. Since coming to Roswell and getting off the road, a few times a year, I would take a little road trip, like back east, for the show and to see family,
But now that you're not doing that show, are you just gonna take vacations now, or not doing the shows, or
around now with with how unstable the economy is, I don't see myself taking any actual vacations. But that's okay. You understand. You're from the East Coast too. We rest when we're dead. that's the attitude of of us New Englanders. It's like just work, 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 work.
I know, but you get that traveler spirit, which I have that too.
Yeah, oh,
it's
yeah.
hard to be in one place for
Yeah.
long. Like you start to feel a little
Oh, I know.
cagey, a little claustrophobic. I don't know if you
Yeah.
like that's me. I don't know.
Oh no, most definitely. I mean, like I said, when we got to Roswell, we got here mid-March. It was the end of July when we made that shopping trip up to Denver. That was the first time we left Roswell since we had gotten here in March. So, what is that? 4 months?
4 months. I'm sure you were itching.
4 months. I was in the same town for 4 months after 15 years of not spending more than a couple of weeks in the same place. So to say that I was itchy,
Yeah, that's so.
yeah,
I get that feel like
yeah,
you just I stayed in Phoenix for over 10 years, but I had to travel even if it was just a day trip just to get out. Like
yeah.
I had to travel every weekend that I could.
Yeah, no, that's good, and that's the thing. There's some people that they don't travel. I met somebody here in town.
Oh, there's so many people who don't travel, and
They've never left the state of New Mexico.
Yeah,
sir.
there's.
When
Can't do it.
Spencer's came in, I said to her, "Oh, I see Spencer's." She had no idea what it was.
I believe that.
I go, "Oh, well, so," and then I'm like, "Well, how do you describe a Spencer's?" So Hot Topic? She didn't know.
She didn't know that either.
Yeah. Like, wow. And
Roswell, they say, is a city, number 5, but this is not a city. This is a farming town.
It's a retirement community.
Yeah, it's very sleepy.
Yeah.
Very sleepy. And if your store and Mary's store were here, I would have lost my mind already. I would have lost my damn mind. And if Bottomless Lakes wasn't there.
Oh yeah,
yeah. We would have been gone by now.
I think it was, and this is that whole, Northeast work ethic. It was about 3 years before we went to check out Bottomless Lakes.
3 years. 3 years of living here before.
Uh-huh.
Oh no.
Oh yeah.
No.
I actually it was it all in that same year? Maybe. It might have been the year before when I checked out Bitter Lakes. And that was just because I had friends visiting.
Oh, so you did the.
Like yeah. That's when it's like every once in a while, Mary and I will be like, "Oh, let's go do this."
Well, you gotta explore where you live too, and I know so many people who don't even explore where they live. Like even in New England, people don't explore where they live.
Well, see,
but
yeah,
I'm a big explorer. Like I've got in Phoenix, so my husband liked to travel, but overseas, which I'm not an overseas traveler.
Wow.
I'm a road trip traveler.
Sure, yeah.
So he didn't see most of Phoenix until we started dating, and then I was like, "Oh, have you been here? Have you been?" No. And I just don't understand that. Like, you gotta see where you live and explore and go do those touristy things because you're missing out on all these cool things.
Right. Yeah.
So traveling in your state, in your town, and in the States, there's so much.
Yeah.
So much difference too. But then you find out that most people are the same. Everybody's basically the same everywhere.
It's like there's a lot where people are the same and have
There's
the same
slight
ideas
difference.
about things.
Yeah.
But then you also if you really people are, "Oh, I travel, I go on cruises all the time, or I go to if you travel from wherever you live to some big fancy tourist destination and you stay in in your hotel and you just go to the ultra touristy spots, you're not traveling.
Right.
That's not traveling. Traveling is seeing how regular people live elsewhere.
That's why my husband likes to do Airbnb and stay with the actual like owners because they're cool and they'll tell you like where to go, what to see, like the best place to go eat. We stayed with a really cool woman the first time we came to Roswell. She lived like way out and like had chickens and she was cool.
Nice. Yeah, I have some Airbnb stories.
Oh, I bet. There's always it's either a good experience or a bad. So, what is your favorite gemstone?
So, like I mentioned earlier, I don't have favorites, and that's one that I really like. I don't. Obviously, I get that question all the time, and I always say I don't do favorites, and especially with the stones. If I picked one, that wouldn't be fair to the others.
Yeah.
You know, and the thing is, you know, the stones that you're drawn to, the stones that you need in your life, as you grow, as you transform, as you become a newer person, it changes. Mm-hmm. You know, so it's like if some people, you can have a favorite. And, like, oh, this is my favorite for now. And several months down the road, oh, my favorite changed.
Well, yeah.
And that's fine. But there are some people who are just like, my favorite is my favorite and I'm never changing that. Like, all right.
Well, that's the way, like with most things, there's the people who are just rigid and then there's the open-minded people who are like, let's try new things.
Yeah. There are basically only two things that I'm rigid about. And one is my favorite color, which is green, which works for
Roswell.
Coming to Roswell. Yeah.
Now, is it this green or is it the lime green?
That's
all
where
green?
It's all greens.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mine is the lime green, but
okay.
I decided to wear this green today.
Yeah. That and numbers. 3 has always been my number, and that's how I always say. I don't say my lucky number, my favorite number, anything like that.
It's just your number.
It's just that's my number. That's the number, and all aspects of 3. 9 is 3 threes. Oh.
So this question's really for me.
Sure.
Is how do you survive being a pagan in this very holier than thou city? And it's very evangelical.
So I used to say, before I really, considered myself a pagan, and now I consider myself a bad pagan. Bad pagan meaning, I don't really practice much. Mm-hmm. There are little things here and there that I do, but it's my paganism, and the same with Mary, it's very unstructured. That's what the rock shop, Eclectic Treasurez. Yeah. Eclectic. It's all over the place. It's different. It's not the same. It's not even the same every day.
Right.
But before I really considered myself even a bad pagan, so I was raised Roman Catholic, and I often use the line from George Carlin. I was raised Roman Catholic until I reached the age of reason. Mm-hmm. And he goes on to say, so about 4 or 5 years old, I was a much more late bloomer than the great George Carlin, and I'm okay with that. I was probably about 15 or 16 when I kind of rejected all of that. Mm-hmm. And so you got that time, you're adolescent, you're 15, 16, you're angsty and angry and
rebelling.
And so for a long time it was more than just a rejection of my I can't even say Christian upbringing, because it wasn't even really it was just you got to go to church and you got to go to Sunday school and okay.
Did your family make you join the Catholic Church? Because mine did.
Yeah.
It wasn't a question.
Yeah.
Was,
No. It was
I had
just,
to.
You just go.
Yeah.
Oh, we're going to church.
Yeah.
Let's go.
There was no, I don't want to go.
Right.
And there was no, I don't want to be a Catholic. It was, you're going to get confirmed.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
And every time I see my parent, are you going to go to church? Are you going to come to church? No. No, I'm not a Catholic.
Thankfully, my family kind of like, got the hint.
That's good.
But the thing is, so for a while, I was very critical of Christianity, and I wasn't nice about it. But let's see, it was about 12 or 13 years ago. Oh, it was about 15 years ago when my sister, who was also raised Catholic, she was living in California with her husband and her 2 kids, and she was, her kids were young. They were less than, I think they were like 2 and 4, and she was having a hard time just with daily life, and coping with being a stay-at-home mom and all this stuff, and a friend of hers out there told her, like, hey, come to our church and just see how you like it and everything. And it was a Church of the Nazarene, and she liked it, and she ended up converting to that, which pretty sure she still goes to a Nazarene church. She's back in Connecticut now. But about 12 or 13 years ago, I was hanging out with her, and we were talking about her, her converting to that, and she basically said, she's like, yeah, it's something that, that helped me get through the day. It was just a different outlook that I didn't have before, and it helps me. And I go, and she added, she's like, yeah, if somebody wants to believe something different, that's fine. That's on them. I'm not going to tell them that they're wrong or anything. So, oh no, okay. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. If your personal beliefs help you, they keep you happy, they keep you uplifted, if it works for you, fantastic. That has nothing to do with me. And it really shaped my, it really helped to shape my view on spirituality in general, which is, basically spirituality is your own personal connection with your higher power, whatever or whoever that may be. It has nothing to do with anybody else. Spirituality is not a team sport. That's religion, and that's rules. Religion is rules and regulations and fitting into a group, and that's, some people need that. That's great. But so to actually answer your question, being in a very is that right, Christian centric? Being in a very Christian town, how do I survive as a pagan? Just fine.
You just ignore everybody.
It's no. Actually, it's not that I ignore everybody else. I cherish the fact that they have something that means something to them, that they have a relationship with their higher power. That's great that they have that.
I'm all for that. And that's how I've always viewed it until I moved here and worked for a government agency. And they had crosses and Bible verses everywhere. Separation of church and state.
Correct. Yes.
So I take precedent and take issue with that. I don't like how in your face. Because I try to be respectful, and I try to not wear things that would scare the locals.
Oh, don't do that. Don't do that.
But I try to be respectful, but I don't feel like they would be respectful of me or you.
No, and that's the thing.
The problem.
And the thing is, something that I learned a long time ago is the worst of any group are going to be the loudest.
True.
The best people, they're humble. They keep it to themselves.
Yes, absolutely. And that's what Christianity teaches is to be humble, but I don't see very many humble Christians around. They're very in your face, like.
No, you don't. But like I said, you don't see the humble ones because they are humble, because they are quiet about it.
Yeah.
They're not going to come up to you and be like, I love the fact that you believe something different. That's good for you. Right. No, they're not going to do that because that's just.
So I should wear big pentagrams and scare them.
You should wear whatever you want for yourself. That's it. I don't feel attacked by somebody who's wearing a cross. I feel attacked by somebody who says, "Can I pray for you? I want to, you're going down a bad path. You're going to end up." Yeah, if your religion is telling me that if I don't believe the same thing as you, bad things are going to happen to me, there's something wrong with your religion.
Yeah.
And you need to focus on spirituality. You need to focus on your relationship with your higher power, because your higher power is going to tell you something very different from whatever this person is telling you to tell others about their own personal beliefs. So that's how I survive, is and the thing is, you dealt with something that I never really had to deal with. You were in a work environment that is based on government, and there was somebody else's religion all splattered in your face there, and that's not right. That's just as that's a passive aggressive way of saying, or if you don't believe my beliefs, you're going to hell.
And you don't get to work here or receive services, because I'm sorry, not everybody in Roswell is a Christian.
Right.
And I think it's very off-putting when I walk into an office building. I expect it to be secular. Now, if somebody I talk to has a cross on or something, that's fine, because that's their belief. But having Bible verses up in the lobby and crosses everywhere is, I think, a gross overstep.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, I totally agree.
But that's not just that office. It's a lot of the government offices here, and the people, or being like, inviting you to go to church with them. No, please don't invite me to go to church with you.
Yeah.
If I want to go, I'm a big girl. I know where the churches are.
Yeah. About 15 years ago, this woman I was dating, she asked me if I would go with her and her father to church. Mm-hmm. And I go, yeah. And she explained to me that it was her father's longtime pastor. It was going to be his last sermon. He was retiring and this and that. Okay, fine. And it was one of the most. It was just weird in so many ways. One, it was a Christian Orthodox church, not Eastern Orthodox. I'd been to an Eastern Orthodox church when a Greek friend of mine got married, and those beautiful churches. This was Orthodoxy, where it was mostly people who converted to Orthodoxy from other weirder religions.
Oh, weirder. Okay.
Her father grew up a Christian Scientist.
Oh, okay. Kind of weird, sure.
Which it's not as weird as Scientology, but it's close.
It's close, yeah.
Anyway, so I went, and about halfway through, I was just like, I can't take this. There was the pastor was basically, the idea of most of what he was saying was, we're right, everybody else is wrong, we're going to be fine, everybody else is going to burn, whatever, da, 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 da. And I was just like, I can't sit through this. No. So I went outside for the rest of the sermon. And then after we all went to lunch with the pastor and his wife, and I was sat right across from the pastor, and we talked a bit, and he seemed like a very, very different person. And that was when I realized, I'm like, okay, yeah, so a lot of church is show. It's theater.
Mm-hmm.
It's, this is what the
It's a
people want to
pageant.
hear.
It's a pageant.
It is. And that's the thing. The pastor, in reality, having lunch with him and talking with him, I realized, I'm like, oh, this guy doesn't, if he really feels that way, he hides it well, but I don't think he does. I think he has that same idea.
That's really sad, though.
It is. Yeah.
No integrity. If he doesn't really feel that, he shouldn't be preaching that.
Well, I mean, it was his last sermon, so maybe that's why he was retiring. It's like, I can't do this anymore.
I can't lie to my congregation. I don't know. That seems wrong on so many levels.
No, organized religion is wrong on so many levels.
I mean, they're cults. I mean, anytime you have a charismatic leader, it's a cult. It doesn't matter if it's an established religion and it's thousands of years old, or if it's a newer religion. They're all cults. Yeah. Anybody who's telling you have to do this, and this, or else X, Y, and Z, it's a cult. So, freedom.
So nice.
Yeah, it's so nice. I mean, I always wonder, what would it be like if I hadn't been raised in a cult? What kind of freedom, like that people who weren't forced to go to church, that they get to grow up in a secular household.
You're just talking about the Catholic cult, right? You weren't raised in a fun one?
No, just the boring Catholic
just the
one.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So I was like, wait, what am I missing?
No, just the cult of the Catholic Church.
Right, yeah.
And I mean, my mom's church, which was Congregationalist, but that's nothing fun. They're the Puritans. They're not.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I always called my mom a Puritan before I looked into the history of the Congregational Church, and I was like, oh, they're the Puritans. They're the ones who came over on the Mayflower and established and hung, and did horrible things to the people of Salem. Oh, that was them. Oh, okay, fun. Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, they're all cults.
Pretty much.
I like watching the knitting cult lady. And she knits, and she was raised in one of the fun ones, as you say.
Okay.
I think Children of God or something. And then she joined the cult of the military, and she became an intelligence officer in the military. And then she went to Harvard and studied cults. And she's written a book called Uncultured. And so she...
Uncultured.
Yep.
Great.
And she talks about cults. And so she does all her videos knitting. And so that's why she's the knitting cult lady. And she talks about how the business world is a cult, the MLM business model is a cult.
Oh my God.
So that there's secular things that can be cults too.
Of course.
So like I like reading about cults and seeing how it does play. I've read other books. I haven't read hers yet.
It's the Children of God cult. Is that the one that Joaquin Phoenix grew up in?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. I think that's the one.
Leaf, Phoenix.
And River. I think that's the one. I could be wrong, but it was a cult like that where they basically lived on a commune with the leaders, and they had the elders. And she tells this horrific story that if one child acted up, they'd all get spanked. Wow. Yeah. So it was very controlled.
Yeah, that's a very that's
an extreme.
Yeah, it's extreme, and it's very
abusive and
there's no individualism at all. I mean, that's how military works.
Right.
Yeah, that's.
So she talks about that, like how when her mom was in charge, that wasn't her mom anymore. Like she couldn't go mom. That would get her in trouble.
Oh, okay.
So if her mom was the one in charge,
whoever the hierarchy is, wow.
And you have to go through that, and so you couldn't go cry to mom, because then everyone's gonna get a spanking. So when she talks about that, how her mom was in charge of that day, something happened. She went crying to mom. Nope, you can't do that. So they are taught very quick and very young that you follow the hierarchy, and people aren't individuals. You don't have mom, you don't have dad. It's the elders or whoever's in charge, and that's it.
Wow.
So it was the extreme, and then joining the extreme of the military.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, I trust this woman. She's definitely very she's lived it.
Right.
And then went to college and deconstructed it all. And now she talks about cults all the time. But it's fascinating that people are, more people are willing to give up their freedom to be told what to do. People want to be told what to do. People don't want to think for themselves or make their own decisions or.
Just like anything, there are a lot of people who are like that, and there are a lot of people who are just on the opposite end of that spectrum.
Exactly. And that's why I like traveling too, because like growing up in New England, that's the message of work, and you work hard until you die.
Right.
And you get educated and you do all these things, but you move to some place like this and it's very different. Compared to New England, very little work ethic. Nobody wants to work, and
no, they're just they're
it's
laid back here. They're laid back.
It's very laid back. It's
yes.
The hours of operation are suggestions, even for government agencies.
Oh yeah.
Even for public spaces, everything is a suggestion. Yeah. So always call ahead, always check ahead, because everything's just a suggestion.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Hours are flexible. People are flexible.
And that's the thing. Our hours are flexible. All our hours are whatever the time is. It's ended in ish.
Right.
Which means that's the thing. Now, people from here might see that as, oh well, if they close at 7-ish. They might close at 6:30. No.
You close at 7 or later.
Exactly. Ish
That's
means
right.
Or later.
Or later.
Yes.
You guys are always open whatever hours you say, and maybe even a little earlier and maybe a little later. But you guys are always open. Like, we can count on you. Other places,
I don't know how many times I've been locking the door and somebody walks up. Oh, can I go? Yeah, come on in.
I know, we've driven by and we're like, they were supposed to be closed like an hour ago. I'm like, they must have customers. I'm like, that's cool, they're still open. You guys are the only one on the street open.
Yeah.
Half the time.
There was one day when I was, I can't remember, I was either in Quartzsite or Tucson. That night I was looking at the app on my phone for the credit card charges. See how the shops are doing, and it's late at night, and I happen to look. I hadn't looked all day, and I look and I see like these 2 or 3 charges from like 8:30 at night, and we close at like 6 or 6:30. This is January, February.
Wow.
This is the winter time. We're not open that late. But yeah, there was somebody in there
for 2.5 hours.
They were in there. I don't know. I think they were in there longer, but I mean.
Wow.
Shoot, they ended up spending over $4,000.
Oh, it was worth staying open.
They were picking all the really nice specimens.
Wow.
Oh my god.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So it was worth it.
Yeah.
Sometimes it pays to be open later
Of
and
course.
being the only store open on the block.
Yes. Yeah. No, that's been a regular thing because everybody else closes at 4 or 5.
Yeah.
The earliest we close is 6 o'clock, and that's during the winter. And so come 5 o'clock, there's like a bunch of people who are like, oh, nothing's open. Oh, hey, this one's open, and we get the people. We get the people that everybody else is like, no, I gotta go home and watch the news or something. What do they do? What do they do?
I don't know what they do because there's nothing else to do here. There's nothing to do here. So.
Oh my god.
I don't know what they're doing. Maybe they're going to the lake. I don't know. Oh, I know what they're doing. They're going to church.
At night? Oh.
I had coworkers who went every night after church. After work to go to church.